god. Between its 10 forms allowed in UUbers, Arceus is the most used Pokemon in the tier, sitting at 69% usage. It's even outranking beasts like Magearna and Zacian, because Arceus can do almost anything you need it to do. With its massive stats and large move pool, there's a lot of variation what Arceus can do. I just want to go over what the different Arceus sets do, what they're good at, and why they do that. So first of all, I want to look at this handy infographic we have over on the Discord server, which gives you a very basic overview of what Arceus does in UUbers. So we have 5 basic categories. There are the weather users, grass, ice, and rock, which support their corresponding weathers, grass going with rain. There's the cosmic power sets, which seek to become unkillable and just sweep you with stored power and body press at the end. Calm Mind, which is the most common Arceus set and has the most variation within it, but it basically revolves around Calm Mind, Recover, Judgment, Taunt, Coverage, things like that. Then we have the defensive Arceus sets, which aim to be super bulky and are usually more physically oriented. Moves like Will-O-Wisp and Roar. Things like Arceus Poison, for example, are very common. And then finally, we have the physical attacker role, which just wants to become fast and strong and sweep your team. So I'm going to go over each different form, starting with Grass. So Grass, I think, was first popular on rain teams. It provides a good stability role. You can switch in Arceus Grass on water and electric moves. And it sort of provides that sort of Ferrothorn role that it's classically played in rain teams of being support for the rain sweepers. Now, the difference with Arceus Grass is that it usually will be running Calm Mind on rain teams. Whether or not it's on a rain team, it's pretty much usually Calm Mind. Things like Recover, Judgment, Earth's Power. And I'd say it's the most common user of the Calm Mind sets. However, it can also surprise you with the physical attacking set, which definitely caught me off guard a few times, with things like Sword Stance, Bullet Seed, Earthquake, and Gunshot. And you'll usually see this one go Tera, Poison, or Ground. So on the right side there, that I won't say it every time, but those are going to be the common Tera types that you'll see from these Arceus forms. Next up, we have Poison. This is the most popular Arceus because it has a lot of versatility in what it can do. The most common set is defensive in some way, and it's also the most popular defensive version of Arceus. Will-O-Wisp, Roar, Recover, Judgment, Gunshot, Poison Jab, just for some stab. It's very hard to break this Pokemon because the poison typing is very good in this meta. It easily switches in on things like Zacian, for example, and a lot of physical attackers struggle to break through this. And really what makes Arceus Poison good is that it's really good at getting off that Will-O-Wisp and neutralizing those attackers. Also common, however, is the Calm Mind set, which, you're going to see this set a lot. Calm Mind, Recover, Judgment, Earth's Power, Taunt. Calm Mind, Recover, Judgment, Taunt is what we call the set, and it's very good. It's the most common singular set, and it's a pretty unifying factor among all of the Arceus forms, mostly. And finally, we have the physical attacker role, which with access to things like Stab, Gunk Shot, Earthquake, or Extreme Speed can be pretty threatening, because it has a pretty easy time setting up Sword Stance with that good defensive typing. Next we have Arceus Fire, which really is just a physical attacker. I've seen some defensive use, but I think if you really want to have a defensive fire type, you're better off with Moltres, because a defensive Arceus Fire, there's a lot of opportunity cost with using that instead of a much better set. But the physical attacker set is the second most common Arceus, and it's by far the most common attacking Arceus set, with Sword Stance or Dragon Dance, a very powerful Flare Blitz, Extreme Speed, Earthquake, Recover, usually with tera normal to boost the extreme speed. This thing can end games really quickly if you're not prepared for it, because this thing can get 2 sword stances off, and you're pretty much done. Extreme speed and flare blitz are a very good combination, because the only thing that resists both of those is rock, which you can either run Earthquake for, or just acknowledge the fact that you probably won't run into many rock types at all. I mean, really, there's what? Arceus, Rock, and Garg. That's pretty much it. But yeah, Fire, very scary physical threat. Next we go to Dark, which is a bit of a weird one, because I actually don't see it that much, but I think it's pretty good. You've got the Calm Mindset, which is what it does best. But it also can run Defensive Set. But first on the Calm Mindset, I think is actually the best stall breaker in my opinion, because if you're just running Mono Judgment with Taunt, it can pretty much bait in anything. Say Clefable, who wants to come Moonblast it, go Tera Poison, taunt it, and just boost all the way. Stall really struggles with Arceus in general, but I think it's the set that is the best at dealing with stall, and I think Arceus Dark is good at kind of surprising stall a bit more. We also have a defensive set, which is a bit unique in that it's the only one that really runs Foul Play, because you're getting that Dread Plate boost for 1.2 times damage. And other than that, it has standard things like Will-O-Wisp and Roar. On to Dragon. This is a primarily niche defensive role, but sometimes a physical attacker. The defensive role can be good for certain teams that need the resistances that Dragon brings. And it's usually going to be doing things like either trying to wisp your physical attackers, roar them out. It's also the one I've seen set up rocks the most. And it's also, of course, going to be good at dropping Dracos with that base 120 special. And the physical attacker, however, you also have to respect, because it has very powerful options with Outrage and Flare Blitz, because this thing is almost always Terrifier. If you see any variant of Arceus Dragon, defensive or offensive, you can assume pretty safely that it's going to be Terrifier, because it has to beat the fairies with that. Now we move on to Ice, our second weather abuser, if you will. Now Ice, you pretty much only guess against no teams, because it can very quickly become very hard to kill, with Snow and Aurora Veil boosting its defenses to absurd levels. It's also good on Snow because I think it serves as a good special attacking counterpart to Baxcalibur, which is the premier Snow abuser, although it's kind of fallen off recently. And you're always going to see just Calm Mind, Judgment, Thunderbolt, Recovery, because Arceus Ice loves to abuse the Bolt Beam access it gets, especially with Tera Electric. So yeah, this one is very predictable, but its ethos is, yeah, I know you know what I'm going to do, but can you stop it? And so this is one you have to really be wary of getting in a good position. But if you can deny that, it's not super threatening. Oops, got the wrong key there. Never mind that. And you can see the music I'm using. Next, we have our other weather abuser, the third of the trio, Arceus Rock. You're going to see this on sand teams. It gets super bulky on the special side with Calm Mind and, of course, the special defense boost. And I think Arceus Rock, although on its own isn't very good, it's useful for dedicated sand teams because it's the best special attacker they're going to get at all. Because, Arceus Rock, which the Judgment Rock, that's a very strong attack. You don't have any ground types to resist it, and the most common ground type at all is Landorus Eye, who's going to be taking neutral damage, doesn't really want to switch in, and even, if this thing gets up one Calm Mind boost in the sand, it easily takes an Earth Power at that point. So I think it's very useful in that right, but it's a pretty niche pick, because not even all sand teams really need Arceus Rock. And then you'll occasionally, every once in a while, run into a physical attacker. And if you see an Arceus Rock off a sand team, it's more likely to be this, with Swords Dance, Dragon Dance, Stone Edge, Earthquake, Bullet Seed. Kind of the same deal as the physical attacking Arceus Grass, really. Next we have Psychic, who is mostly a Cosmic Power user. Cosmic Power, Recover, Body Press, Stored Power, that's the Cosmic Power set. That's pretty much all they need. But of course, this is pretty vulnerable to, phasing, which is anything that moves you out like Whirlwind or Haze itself. Taunt and Encore. The set is pretty hard to get set up against anyone who's actually bringing utility. But the other use for Arceus Psychic is Future Sight. This thing throws off really powerful Future Sights, and honestly, that's the only predictable part of the Future Sight support set, because after Future Sight, which is all you really need at that point, it can kind of run anything else, which is, one of its 100 moves. But yeah, it can throw off some pretty scary Future Sights, and if you don't have a good switch in, it can create some difficult situations. For example, if paired with Urshifu Single Strike, doing that same old Future Sight Wicked Blow combo. We have Fighting now. Fighting is very one-tone. It does Cosmic Power. I've only ever seen it do Cosmic Power. There's no real reason to use it other than for Cosmic Power. But I think it's not as good at Psychic as doing this role because, first of all, it's very predictable. And second of all, it's better defensive typing on Psychic for this set starting off. Like, they usually want a Tera to beat a threat, but Fighting with its fairy weakness, that's a pretty bad weakness to have in this tier when you consider the two top mons are Zacian and Magearna, throwing off their powerful stabs everywhere. But this set does exist. And finally, we get our 10th boy, Arceus Bug. The worst Arceus by far, not because Arceus is bad, but because of the opportunity cost of not using an actual Arceus. I've probably watched and played a couple hundred matches of UUbers, and I've actually never seen it. I've legitimately never seen Arceus Bug used, because there's no reason to use it. Bug is a terrible type on its own, and Mono Bug, even with these stats, is not good. Don't use it. Please don't use it. But if you do use it and win, that's pretty funny. So, that's my general overview of the Arceus forms and what they do. Hope you found it informative, and I will see you guys hopefully in the next UUbers video. Thank you for watching. See ya.